Hey guys, Matt Walksler here, back in the Cannonball exhibit here at Wheels Through Time. Today highlighting two ultra cool motorcycles, the Cadillacs of the Cannonball, two Henderson motorcycles. Both these bikes owned by a good friend of ours, Frank Westfall. Frank's from Syracuse, New York, one of the biggest characters in the AMCA. He's been doing all sorts of endurance and road run events for years and years and years on these early motorcycles. Actually, Frank and my dad competed in the Great American Race in 1995 and 96. Frank was on a 1928 Henderson Deluxe. So the machines we're looking at today, two incredibly rare motorcycles. I'm gonna highlight the later model right here first. Now, 1916 Henderson, Frank's machine for the 2018 Cannonball. Frank rode this bike. I believe the 2018 Cannonball was Portland to Portland. So started on the East Coast, made its way all the way to Oregon. This machine, pure rally endurance machine, set up by Frank and of course Mark Hill from Fourth Coast Fours. Mark Hill, absolute wizard when it comes to four-cylinder machines, has prepped an incredible number of Hendersons, Indians, Aces to run the Cannonball, and Mark's work and his son's work, Loring, are second to none. So this machine, 1916, we'll highlight some of the features on it for you. Now this bike, 1,000cc engine, single speed. So 1916 was actually the last year of the single speed Henderson. Incredibly rare models. Now, this is the first of what we call the short wheelbase Henderson. So early on, they called the long wheelbase Hendersons brake and clutch floorboards up front. Actually, they didn't have the side floorboards. So 1916, they've kind of got the new chassis, but they're still stuck with that kind of antiquated single speed setup. Now, Frank made every single mile on this bike from Portland to Portland. Perfect score. Ended up in 5th place. Remember, when there's a tiebreaker, it goes down to the most primitive of the classes. You've got twin-cylinder, multi-cylinder, multi-speed. It's kind of the top class, most capable bikes. You've got multi-cylinder single speeds, which this bike fell into, and then the single-cylinder, single-speed jobs. So Frank, I believe, was in class 2. Completed every single mile and really did well on this machine. Bike's been set up, of course, a couple of mirrors, non-standard at the time. Honda front brake, as was standard with a lot of the Cannonball bikes. Remember, safety first, so you got to be able to slow down. Route sheet up top, just like standard. Most of the guys running these would run their own route sheet, and it's incredibly detailed stuff. Mileage down to the 10th or even 100th of a mile. Lefts, right-hand turns, how fast to go. Really, really neat stuff. Now this bike's also been set up. Now it's a little bit lighter than standard. I believe the fenders are a bit lighter. Original frame, gas tanks made from aluminum, so you've got a considerably lighter setup there. Little bit newer pot metal Schebler carburetor with the big bowl here, feeding this thing plenty of fuel. Mark makes these things run like watches. Jokingly, we call them Honda Hendersons because they never break. Rear brake setup very much similar to the front brake with the sprocket adapted. Internal drum Honda style brake gets you stopped and safe much, much quicker than what was available at this time. Now, my favorite machine almost out of any Cannonball motorcycle in our exhibit, any Cannonball period, is Frank's 1912 Henderson motorcycle. Now, 1912 was the first year for Henderson. Henderson was built in Detroit from 1912 to 1917. Literally, the Duesenbergs and the Cadillacs of American motorcycles. 4 cylinders, 1,000 cc's. Tom and Will Henderson actually started producing these bikes to great success. Incredible endurance machines. Actually, this 1912 Henderson is almost identical to the first motorcycle to go around the world. So pretty incredible feat way back in 1912 on a first year of production motorcycle to take it around the world. It's pretty amazing. So this bike, Cannonball Winner. You see that #1 plate right here. Frank rode this bike to perfection in the 2016 Cannonball, competed from Atlantic City to San Diego, and really made it look easy. Now, bike is set up, again, very similar to the 16 Henderson behind us. Beefy front brake from a later model machine. Again, safety is key on these. So while we try and keep the driveline and the engine as true to form as we can, guys are constantly upgrading when it comes to safety. So you get that rear brake, same thing up top with the front, or up front with the front brake. You got to be able to stop. Now this machine, capable of beating down the road 55, even 60 miles an hour. It's a single speed like the 16. So this point, you've got basically transmission really hadn't even been incorporated into any motorcycles yet. Couple 2-speed machines maybe around at this time. Over on the other side, I'll show you kind of how everything works. Clutch, and that's it. You clutch it to go. So this is your clutch lever. You got double brake pedals right up front. Now this is what we were talking about when we were talking long wheelbase Henderson. The floorboards up front here. Now initially this machine wouldn't have had the side floorboards. Frank updated this bike just for a little bit more comfort when you're riding. The thing is incredibly skinny. When you've got your feet way out in front, you a lot less control. You get your feet out to the side and you can actually use your feet to steer and help you control the machine. And so Frank updated it with a little bit later floorboards. Clutch lever here, and this works, this simple little multi-plate Eclipse clutch. Not a lot to this clutch actually. So single speed setup, clutch it and go. You probably got to slip the clutch up to maybe 15 or 20 miles an hour, and once it's out, you can hammer down the road real well. Cool little piece of trivia here for the guys that, if any of you guys had seen the Harley and the Davidsons television documentary, you remember the little bit of controversy with Indians suing Harley over, I'm not sure exactly what it was in the show. The way the story actually went, it's somewhat accurate. The way the story actually went is the Eclipse company that made clutches, that made hubs, all sorts of stuff for various brands of motorcycles. The Eclipse company went on and sued Harley, Indian, and Excelsior over patent infringement on their clutch setup. So they actually ended up winning. Harley, Indian, Excelsior all had to adapt and modify and change the clutch up. So kind of cool little piece of history that ties right in with Frank's Henderson 4-cylinder. American Bosch magneto. This thing's putting out the voltage upward of 30,000 volts. Tons of spark. Incredible motorcycle. Now, I rode this bike twice. Frank let me ride it around the swap meet up there at Ole, Pennsylvania. Incredibly stable ride. Again, worked over front to back by Mark Hill. One of the best in the business when it comes to 4-cylinder motorcycles. Proud to have the bike here on display at Wheels Through Time. It graces the front entrance of our Cannonball exhibit. Proud to have a winner right here on display at Wheels. So guys, thanks for tuning in, hearing all about Frank's 16, and of course the grand champion of the 2016 Cannonball, Frank's 1912 Henderson. Guys, thanks for tuning in for Cannonball Week. Got all sorts more great stuff, great content coming to you later on this next week. Make sure you're tuning in. driveforhistory.com. Check out the museum it runs. Remember, you guys help fuel us. Take it easy.